Hello, people. I'm Sino Vargas.
And I'm Jennifer Daniel. This podcast is where we bring our life experiences, have conversations, and shine a light upon everyday mysteries.
From mysteries of this world to the mysteries of ourselves, we talk about it all. So get your coffee, get your tea, sit back, and let's unleash our inner wisdom.
Welcome to Casually Wise.
Hi, Namita. Welcome to Casually Wise. I think first we can start by just giving a background about how do I know you, how do we know each other. So, I met Namita through college and we've been friends for I think 2 3 years now, and we kind of jam on and bond on our zodiac signs and a love for spirituality and witchcraft and philosophy and psychology. And I think more than me, I think Namita can give a better introduction of herself. So, hi Namita, how are you doing? Welcome to our podcast. What's up?
Yay, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for calling me to do this. It's so fun to finally do this with you. I know we've sort of had so many conversations around like spirituality, around therapy, around just these sort of topics that feel very magical to us. And I'm so glad to share that bond with you. So, going to sort of introduce myself to everybody listening. My name is Namita Thavani, and I am an visual artist, but I also study psychology. And more specifically, I study expressive arts therapy, which is a very it's sort of a niche in India, and the community is growing, so that's really exciting. I personally have always visioned the use of arts in as a form of healing, as a form of just giving that space to yourself of authenticity. And I think that it all came together when I found my path in expressive arts therapy, when it all just came together. So I'm really glad to be having these conversations today. And that's pretty much who I am.
Well, really happy to have you with us today, Namita. The three of us actually have a common interest of psychology, so I'm really excited about the kind of conversation we are going to have today, and it's going to be all around art. So I'm going to start with the first question for the group. So, what does art mean to you, and what role has art played in your life? So, anyone who can start, like, we can share our thoughts about this.
I think art has played a huge role in my life, um, mainly because I have used it to support myself. And I only understood that very recently, but I've always used art as just a way to connect with myself, to support myself. And interestingly, I know that when we hear the word art, um, up, there is this there's this sort of deep rooted feeling that there should be a product or there should be like a finished piece. But as I said, because I'm a visual artist, I understand that aesthetics matter, but at the same time, it wasn't my first priority as an artist since I was a kid. So to indulge in art without knowing where it's going, which basically means doing art spontaneously, it really supported me. And I think that relationship with the arts, my relationship with the arts is just everything. I have had moments of great feelings of like, oh, this is like the perfect piece, the structure is perfect, the lines are perfect, the colors are perfect. At the same time, I've looked at it and be like, this is shit, dude, like this is so shitty. And I love it because I'm just so amazed by the spectrum of art. Like it can cover everything. If I think it's just a way of projection maybe, but it just is everything to me.
I think I totally relate to what you're saying, and I think our even our aesthetics are kind of similar. But I think for me, art has always been something that I do to take my mind off, or to like create a world within, which is totally different from the last art that I created or something. And even I used to be very nervous and paranoid about making the right circle, the perfect square, the perfect line. It has to be symmetrical. Like that's how I got into mandalas, and I used to like be very serious about my mandalas. But then when I started doing abstract art, I was like, you know what, fuck it. Like I'll just do, something, something, and make it interpretative and like give it a metaphorical meaning to it. And I think taking art very seriously is also not that healthy. And I think I started taking it very lightly and very like just to do art, just for sake of doing art, not for selling it. Like that is my opinion. Like I started not to sell it, not to like show it to other people. I just started doing it for myself, and it's just like dheere dheere, like slowly people started like understanding it, like trying to relate to it, and then it would make sense. And I would make some art, like, and just to show, like, I would show Jennifer, I would show it to a couple of my friends, like, bro, tell me, like, what do you think about it? Like, what is your story behind it? Because if I show them something, and one person will say it looks like a Eskimo with gloves, another person will say it looks like two dead people, like, totally different interpretations. And I feel like that's what I like about making this kind of art that I do. So I think art for me has been that always. What about you, Jen?
Yeah, I what both of y'all said, I completely relate to that. And for me, art has been in the form of different forms, like writing and playing an instrument, or dancing. All of these things have the main thing that it's helped me do is to express myself, and that is why art is so important. And as you mentioned, Siona, that we always we get caught up in making the perfect art, and that's not what art should be about, because it is an expression of yourself, and it cannot always be perfect, right? So but also on the part of taking it too lightly, I used to play an instrument, and even though as an art form it was like my way of expression, but I took it too lightly, and I stopped really practicing. And that and then I realized that, oh, to improve on your art, you have to practice, and you have to build a root, like you have to build a practice to improve on your art, because even though it's a form of expression, it is always good to practice it and do it better, express yourself better. And also another thing is, it is not for the people, it is for you to feel good, and it's for your inner well-being. So and yeah, of course, like if you want to share it with the world, you should do that, but don't forget the component of like letting letting art help you. Like don't forget that when you are trying to share it. Yeah, so that's what I want to share about this.
That's so interesting, Jennifer. Like, you mentioned about playing an instrument and how the practice sort of not taking it too seriously sort of went in that direction where you sort of moved away from that sort of art form. And that's so interesting because no matter what the intention we have, whether it's whether we have a relationship with art as the product part of it, or even with the process part of it, they are not mutually exclusive all the time. They are always together, and no matter what your intention is, practice and showing up for that art, no matter what the intention is so important. So I think when we're talking about being serious, I think it's more about how can I show up for myself, and sit with this, and then what comes. And then it's all on your personal intentions. And as I said, they aren't mutually exclusive. Sometimes you are working towards a process and a product comes out. Sometimes you're working towards a product and a process comes out. Sometimes you set an intention. So it really depends on our personal choices. But showing up is so important, but at the same time, once you've shown up, letting go. So there's this paradox there as well.
You have put it so nicely, because in my head, when you guys was speaking, I was like thinking like, literally before joining this meeting, I was watching this video of Rick Rubin talking about creativity, and he had mentioned, you know, just having talent doesn't make you a great artist, or like doesn't make you great at art. It's all about consistency and work ethic. You need to put in the effort. The discipline is required. Even if you are Picasso or something, that effort is required. Not everyone is a prodigy. And if you want to be successful, if you want to be really good at it, and like you no shiddat se kuch chahte ho tum if that's what you want, then that ethic is required, work ethic is required, discipline is required, and like Namita said, like you have to show up for it. So I totally agree to that. And yeah.
Yeah, same. Like, that is my take as well. Uh, I totally agree to every single thing she said. Yeah.
So I have a question for you both, Jenny and Siona. When you hear the word expressive arts therapy, what things come up to your mind? What are you thinking about? What are some things? What are some words? What are some feelings that you're thinking about when you hear the word expressive arts therapy?
So for me, it sounds like a pretty like liberating thing where you use an art form and you express yourself. And honestly, before joining this, I had a stereotyped understanding that it means using painting or some kind of like some kind of artwork. That's what I had in mind, but then I was exposed to the idea that no, it also means that dance therapy, play therapy, all of the play therapy. I don't know if I'm right, but yeah, yeah. So that's my understanding. Something which helps you express yourself in freely and liberates you. I think that.
I think I'm going to give a very biased answer because I've attended your workshops. So, for me, I think expressive arts therapy is literally what Jenny just said. I was the one who exposed her to it. So, like, dance therapy, drama, like using anything and everything which stimulates your sense organs. And if some way you can use that to like heal yourself, if without going through a rigorous systematic therapy session, or having like pills or something like that, which is like, I feel like a more natural and more you know with the nature kind of a healing. I find art therapy in that sense. So for me, I feel expressive arts therapy is a way of like being with nature and using what we already have to heal ourselves, using all the art forms that's available, जितने भी है, like doing a drum circle, uh, playing with water, playing with sand, playing with clay, whatever there is, using it all. So that's what I think. So I think you're gonna like tell us more about it. So yeah, let's hear it.
Yeah, you guys pretty much sort of hit the nail on that, and I completely understand what you were trying to say about how expressive arts therapy it because you've also experienced it. It doesn't go the traditional way. It goes beyond that traditional way, and it goes into a space where there is a connection between your mind, body, soul, and or spirit, or you can say, as in there is a connection within your whole system, and you're showing up with all that you are, with whoever that you are, and which sort of takes away from the traditional therapy scenario that we know of, ki sirf baat karna hai, we just have to talk, we just have to share, we just have to talk. There are a lot of myths and stereotypes about expressive arts therapy, but let me just start off by saying that the most basic definition that I can think of is expressive arts therapy is the use of multiple creative art forms, creative forms such as dance, movement, poetry, drama, visual art, play, creative writing, sand tray. There are so many different creative art forms, and a lot of them come from perhaps some ancient methods. Some of them are very new age. Something like AI can also be incorporated in an expressive art session. So any kind of creative art form, using any kind of creative art form within the context of psychotherapy. And by that I mean that it's not like it's not therapy. It's not that it's not an art class. It's not a class. There is an intention. There is structure. There is structure to this, but it's not just fun and games. We are actually looking towards healing. We are looking towards using the context of therapy. And we use this different sort of art forms, and we use this kind of method of therapy, expressive arts therapy, in multiple settings, not just, for specific individuals. It can be used by everybody. And that sort of maybe takes this conversation a bit further to the, myths and stereotypes of expressive arts therapy. Before that, is there anything that you guys sort of want to add to what you think expressive arts therapy can do, and who is it for? Any sort of myths and stereotypes that you have about expressive arts therapy?
So I have a question. Does expressive art therapy need to be complemented with another psychotherapy, or is it enough by itself?
Okay, that's really interesting question, and I think when we look at the definition of psychotherapy, there are multiple. I think what psychotherapy helps us in the process is to give it. So wait, let me just back up and first answer yes. I think expressive arts therapy teaches us more about the. I'm trying to think of the right words so that our wider audience understand this, but let's talk about it like, okay, when you go into a therapy session, right, there are multiple things: the way the session is conducted, the way the person is speaking, the different tools that the person has. So at the end of the day, we are doing psychotherapy. Yes, we are doing psychotherapy, but the tools that we're using, the way that a therapist conducts themselves, the way that they assess the client, the way that they assess the client's needs, and also cater to create practices for them, is using the arts, is using these creative art forms. So yes, psychotherapy is definitely they have to be incorporated in the practice, because expressive arts is just the tool, and psychotherapy is the foundation of it.
Okay, that makes sense. So, building on that, yeah, I had another question. Building on that, do we need an qualified art therapist to help us with art therapy, or can it be done by a layman?
Okay, that's actually another very, very important question to address. So I personally believe that expressive arts, without the therapy, expressive arts is something that we all humans have access to in multiple ways, but perhaps we don't know about it, or perhaps we don't. It's not a part of our routine. It's not a part of our daily, or like it's not a part of our lifestyle. Let's just say that, right? But when we're talking in context of therapy, when we're talking in context of healing, when there is an intention where a person wants to work towards themselves, I think it is really important to have that support of a trained expressive arts therapist or expressive arts therapy practitioner. I think because here in India, we don't have very rigid laws around the qualification and who can be, who you can go to. Sometimes we can get caught up by individuals who don't have proper training to actually conduct spaces for expressive arts. So it's really important to ask a few questions to your whoever you're seeking support from. It's really important to ask if they are trauma informed, which is really important because expressive arts therapy, actually all forms of therapy, all forms of healing requires this understanding of trauma. Inclusivity. Is the therapist or the practitioner, how do they incorporate inclusivity in their practice? Are they willing to change their ways of supporting the session by maybe having dim lights in their background? Just something like that, things like that. So that's why coming back to the earlier question, that's why expressive arts therapy feels so interesting to me, because we use the arts to facilitate that support. So if the client is saying, I want dim lights, that we make that creative adjustments, not just in the lights or the logistics, but also in our relationship with the client. So it's really important to ask these questions to your practitioner or to your therapist, so it's important to have somebody who is informed and who has the right training. But we all can dabble into expressive arts in our own time, with just to sort of have a session of mindfulness, just to have a session of expression. I think we all are entitled and we all are पूरा हक बनता है हमारा यूज करने को for healing. बस ये है कि if you really want to sort of work on your specific concerns, it's important to seek support and find the right practitioner and therapist for yourself.
That makes really good sense. Yeah. I think I want to come to the myths and stereotypes wala thing, because in my head I have this question that mental health is still very new in India. It's just picking up pace since COVID and whatnot. So having expressive arts therapy its own space, between other kinds of therapy approaches. So how hard is it to find space, that people would come to you for expressive arts? Because as you just said, you can do it at your own pace at home. So some people might take that as an advantage of not going to a therapist, an art therapist. So what is it, what are the stereotypes that people have about art therapy, and how can one be more educated and informed about why do you really need to seek an art therapist? And while you answer that, you can also maybe answer, is art therapy for everyone? Because we can always advocate for art therapy, but is it really for everyone? And if it is, then how can everyone use it? Or if it is not, then what are the checklists that people need to go through to understand, oh, maybe this is for me or maybe this is not for me?
Siona, that is such an interesting question, because I have so much to talk about this when it comes to it. I'm having such a hard time sort of finding ways to show or to show what expressive arts therapy can do, mainly because ये जो experience है वो body based है, वो feelings के ऊपर है. Your feelings, the thing that you're feeling in the moment, the experiences that you encounter in the moment, and how much can I show, how much can I talk about feelings, how much can I show the feelings through photos, through words. It does a good job, but I feel like one can only completely understand expressive arts therapy when they sort of come and experience it for the first time. So to answer your question, when we hear the word expressive arts therapy, now we all understand these words exclusively. Okay, expressive, we understand what expression is, what expressiveness is, we understand arts, we understand what comes under that, and then we understand therapy. And now therapy is a conversation that's sort of growing, and I'm so glad that it's growing in our country. And then now we're also adding expressive arts to it. So everyone's like, okay, what is that? Why does it sound like I'm going to go to an art party? Which brings me to one very important stereotype, that just because it's expressive arts therapy That's exactly how I feel like it sounds like to a lot of people. It can also be expressive arts therapy. You see what I did there? I used my voice to express the difference. Just okay. So what I'm trying to say is, expressive arts therapy. Something that I've heard from people is that, oh, so this is like fun and games, and I'm just like, so one very important stereotype that I want to break is that it's not a serious form of therapy, which is actually false. Damn, add a voice here, okay? Like false. You know that beep sound. It's not a serious type of therapy. That's false. It is actually, and I know the word serious. I don't really. I mean, what does serious even mean? But what I'm trying to say is, yes, we do tap into a lot of like the whole spectrum of emotions. We can tap into any emotion using expressive arts. We can tap into any narrative, any story, any concern, psychological, emotional, spiritual, using the expressive arts tools. So it's not just fun and games. That's one very important stereotype. And then the second one that I've heard is that, do I have to be an artist to engage in expressive arts, just because the word art is in there? And I know that, this is really sort of sad to me that our education system did not put much focus on expression and creativity and imagination, rather just, okay, how can you copy this house and how can you draw this house on the paper? Can you copy this bird and make this bird? And I feel like that just was that's perhaps okay to build skill, but I think that when you're tapping into the arts, expression and imagination are so important. And that's where I want to break this stereotype and myth of, no, you don't have to be an artist and you don't need to have any skill of any art form to indulge in expressive arts therapy. Why? Because the focus is on expression, the focus is on imagination, expression, जो सबके अंदर है. Everybody has expressive abilities. मैं तुम्हें बोलूँगी एक example is that we all like to keep changing our phone wallpapers, right? Home screen, lock screen. एंड वो हम क्यों करते कि हाँ ये देख के मुझे कुछ फील होता है, या ये देख के मुझे अच्छा लगता है, या दिस रिमाइंड्स मी ऑफ समथिंग. सो देयर इज एन इंटेंशन and there is an form of expression, which is the visual form of expression. So you incorporate that in your life. That itself is just a chota sa jhalak of your expressive abilities. That you did something for your something that makes you indulge in expression. When somebody sees my wallpaper, they have a slight idea of me. It's an extension of me. And I think phones are so personal to us, so personal to most of us. I'm sure that there are some people who have managed to sort of detach themselves from this. But for those like me, I think I'm still in that process where my phone is always with me, and I definitely use my wallpaper to express myself. So this is just one slightest form of expression that we all and okay, how about another thing? When we relate ourselves to movie characters, I feel like this person, what you're doing, you're using that character, which is a form of drama, which is a form of so many multiple roles, multiple characteristics, the way they dress, the way they talk, the personality they embody, and we want to attach ourselves to that. We feel like, oh, I relate, same, that capital letter same, like same dude, same. So that is again a form of expression, because you are allowing yourself, or you are giving that space to yourself to attach yourself to something. And yeah, I think these are just some examples that coming to my mind. There are multiple ways where we express ourselves. So yeah, everyone can indulge in expressive arts therapy. There is no fixed rule that you have to be informed about any skill in any art form. And yeah, that's there. And one more myth that's there with this sort of art form is that it's not just for specific age groups or specific kind of populations. Expressive arts therapy can be used by every and any population, whether it's corporates, whether it's schools, whether it's students, whether it's artists themselves, right? And these are just systems, but also populations with different concerns. We have used expressive arts therapy with geriatrics, with Parkinson's and Alzheimer's. We have used expressive arts therapy with young adults, with autism, with Down syndrome. We've used expressive arts therapy with individuals who suffer from depression. We've used expressive arts therapy in every population that we can, and it has definitely shown a lot of effectiveness. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, well, really interesting to hear everything about art therapy from you, and how it is used. It can be used by everyone, because creativity is something that is within everybody. And as a culture, we have a culture of suppressing our creativity from the time we are in school, and hence like, you know, as you said, copy this thing, copy the exact thing, and where is the chance for us to express ourselves? So that's why such kind of art forms like art therapy is really a really big, it will create a big shift for people in their own individual journeys. Yeah, so can you, is there something we can do, like, to express ourselves in a, like, on a daily basis? Like, if it's not related to therapy, is there some expressions of art which we can do every day? Or like you mentioned, I really liked your analogy of the phone cover, phone wallpaper, because that is what I do. And every time I set an intention and I look at that wallpaper, it just reminds me of my intention. And yeah, the movie character, like in every art we see a part of ourselves in an art, and that relatability is what keeps us going. I think that we are not alone. And yeah, so that's what I feel. Siona, would you want to add something?
No, I think I want to hear from Namita what she has to say about this, of things like, no, therapeutic activities that one can do while also trying to approach for art therapy from a trained therapist, but things they can do khud se at home, just for that 2 minutes of mindfulness, 2 minutes of maybe getting to know yourself better, like just that 2 minutes, 5 minutes ka thing, like, you know, what is something that one person can do, like for the listeners who are listening right now.
Yeah. I think it's really important for us to acknowledge that there is no wrong or right in creative expression, and this is something that we say in the therapy space, that there is no wrong or right way to express yourself. But I definitely think that if that's something that you can take outside from the therapy space and incorporate in your practice of expression and expressive arts, and when you're dabbling into creative modalities, if that's something that you can take back, if that's something that you can really embody, that ab main jo ye what I'm going to do now, whatever I'm going to indulge in myself right now, it's going to be a product, a product. That's so interesting. I was saying product now. I was like, no product, but I just finished my sentence. A product that, or a process that allows me to be myself without finding the rights and wrongs, without thinking about the right way and the wrong way, and just doing it spontaneously. I think that is something that we can carry with us in our spaces. And you can always explore multiple creative art forms, such as what is it that you find you're comfortable with? Do you want to sit down and write for 5 minutes? Just write whatever's coming out from your mind, whatever you're thinking of, just spilling it on the paper. Are you somebody who wants to take watercolors? If watercolors are overwhelming, how about you try sketch pens? So the material and the art form also dictates, the process. So finding what you're comfortable with is important to start off, and definitely taking some time out throughout the day to indulge in it without distractions. So you sit down, you have an intention. Okay, I'm doing this for myself. I'm doing this. When I say intention, I don't mean, okay, after I do this, I am going to be stress-free. No. I'm doing this for myself. Setting the intention that this is something I'm doing for myself. Otherwise, if you're putting an intention of like, ये होना ही चाहिए इसके बाद, ये process के बाद ये होना ही चाहिए, then it'll be counterproductive, because at the end of the day, again, we're trying to incorporate a slow life. We're trying to incorporate sitting down and just letting it flow. And that flow experience comes when we're just allowing ourselves to be without these structures of right and wrong and goal setting कि यहाँ तक पहुँचना ही है मुझे. But putting that all aside and just being in the moment is so essential. And it takes time, obviously. If you're somebody like me who gets really distracted, I think that for me to just sit down is the task. Doing the creative art form isn't as much of a task than giving me that opportunity to sit down in that silence, or with some music, without my phone, without thinking about what I have to do next, my work, my tasks that are pending. Just keeping all that aside and sitting down with the creative art form, that becomes difficult. So it takes time to do that, definitely. And we can definitely use some rituals to get us in the mood. If you want to set perhaps a mood to get you into the headspace, maybe playing specific music, moving, meditating, using a candle, taking that buffer time before indulging in a creative practice is also important. So yeah, these are just very very zoomed out, scenario based offers that I have. But definitely there's a lot out there on the internet, a lot of famous therapists on Instagram who have a lot of different prompts, from dance movement therapy to visual art therapy. And it's important to use their prompts because they are the ones who have incorporated it, studied how it works, and really curated it in a very specific way. So using those prompts can really benefit us. Maybe we can sort of add a few names, maybe in the text or something.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. You can go ahead.
Yeah, can definitely let people know that there are therapists out there who do create prompts for us to incorporate expression in our lives and indulge in creative art forms.
Thank you, Namita. Thank you so much for what you just said. I think we all have, including us both and people who are listening, something to take away from this episode and like the activities that you told us, like rituals or like even like the prompts. Like I think prompts something that I think we both do follow. Like we always go for the new moon energy kind of prompts, but I think just journaling out prompts and just doing all these 2 minute things are pretty helpful. Maybe not in the long run, maybe just in the short term or something, or in the long term, but I think that's pretty cool. So we would like to conclude the episode now, and but before we conclude,
So I just wanted to add one thing. I when you were speaking, I kind of like understood this process. Like I gathered that it's not about the product. Even it came out like it unconsciously came out when you were also speaking. It came out as a product, but it's actually the process. Which starts from an intention that why am I doing this, and then it goes towards letting go and finally surrendering to that process of expressing yourself. And I feel that this is like there are like different stages in this also, which I could like gauge through when you were talking. Like these are different stages, and also why prompts are important, because there is a science behind this, which like people who have actually studied about this, are more knowledgeable, have created these prompts out of some kind of intention. So yeah, that is what I was thinking when you were speaking that. Yeah. So very beautiful. I mean, I'm so excited for everyone to listen to this episode.
thank you, Namita, for giving us so much information about art therapy and enlightening us with, you know, the different types of therapy and the stereotypes and myths and how to incorporate art in your everyday life and, using art as healing. So, what I want to like ask you is, what is there anything else that you want to tell the audience about? Is there anything else, any kind of last words you want to say to the audience?
Yeah, yeah, thank you for this opportunity. I think that, you know, this sort of art form I truly believe in, and I see a lot of value in, and I am totally up for advocating this any opportunity I get. So really appreciate being here. And I think to conclude, I just wanted to share a few things about expressive arts therapy. That, as I mentioned earlier, expressive arts therapy includes multiple different art forms, creative art forms, but you may also notice that there are individual, you can use just one particular art form for the whole process. For example, there is art therapy, there is dance movement therapy, which is called DMT, which is actually it's a growing community in India. And then you hear about music therapy, play therapy, and then comes expressive arts therapy, which incorporates all these multiple art forms in just one in one process. So you can also choose for something that's more specific, which is if you are somebody who just wants the therapy process to incorporate visual art, then you will find an art therapist. If you want somebody who can facilitate drama, then you find a drama therapist. If you want to dabble into all of them, in the process, then you can definitely find an expressive arts therapist. So this is one really important thing that I sort of felt like I should mention. And I feel like there's a lot of potential for these art forms, mainly because one thing that I notice that these art forms have that are different from the traditional format is that there's a lot of focus on community, sharing, expression, repetition, spontaneity. It holds the paradox. It holds all paradoxes, because you can find in an expressive arts session something so fun and something so serious. You can find repetition and pattern, you can find spontaneity, you can find silence, and you can find just so much sound. Right? And when we talk about expression, there's this idea that expression is loud, bright, colorful, but expression can be soft, slow as well. And I understand my bias, as I'm sort of also, talking about these things in labels, but I think that that's the only way I can send this across, that yes, there are so many things that expressive arts and creative arts formats, so many things that they can do that perhaps traditional therapy did not have space for. So yeah, that's pretty much why I am truly a fan of this art form, and I have been living a life that incorporates these practices, and I have seen how it has supported me and my being. So yeah, that's pretty much my last words on this topic. And I'm really hoping for people to come down and experience what expressive arts therapy has to offer, because once you try, you will know whether you like it or you don't. And if you don't like it, that's okay as well. But I think trying is essential for that information कि अच्छा लगेगा या नहीं लग रहा है अच्छा. So just try it out if you have the opportunity. I do conduct workshops. I do whole spaces of expressive arts therapy in Pune, but I have a lot of peers who are across India, so we can definitely find a way to let our viewers know about the resources that they can look forward to around India to experience expressive arts therapy. Definitely.
Well, Namita, thank you so much. This was a wonderful, wonderful chat. We really got to learn a lot from you today, and I'm sure I'm going to take away so many things from this, and so will our viewers. And yeah, thank you once again for your time and sharing all your knowledge on this topic. Yeah, it was a wonderful, wonderful session.
With that, we come to the end of this episode. Thanks for listening till the end. Hope you enjoyed this episode. We would also love to know what are your takeaways, so let us know in the comment section below.
Also, don't forget to tune in to our Spotify channel and show some love, and make sure to follow us on Instagram at casually.wise to stay connected for the latest updates. We can't wait to meet you again in the next one. Until then, this is me, Jennifer.
And this is me, Siona. And remember, keep it cash.